Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another Dirtbike magazine video. Today, we're testing the 2024 Yamaha YZ250 Two Stroke. The Yamaha YZ250 Two Stroke is one of the greatest bikes of all time, and it was in need of some attention. In 2022, it finally saw some. The YZ250 and 125 are the longest running models in motocross history, produced continuously since 1974. No matter who you are, that commands respect. That's probably why insiders at Yamaha will lay down on the tracks to keep them in the lineup year after year. However, it's one thing to offer two strokes and quite another to reinvest in their continued development. Most years, the big thinkers in Yamaha's marketing department forecast that the YZ250 will sell in about the same numbers whether it's updated or not. Despite everything, the 2022 Yamaha YZ250 received new updates. It was a case of the enthusiasts within the company winning out over the bookkeepers. In 2005, we saw the arrival of the aluminum frame, and in 2006, the KYB SSS suspension. We understand that this era was the last big investment that Japan would ever make in the two-stroke. Even then, the YZ motor had been unchanged since 2003, but the chassis was brought up to date with the latest technology in the motocross world. From that point forward, only parts, components, and bodywork would change. The fork and the brakes have had a number of changes, but a big cosmetic remake didn't come until 2015. There were more changes in 2022 than there had been in any other year since 2005. The most obvious was the bodywork. The shrouds, fuel tank, and seat were redesigned to make the seating position more level from front to rear, with smoother transitions and a narrower width in the knee grip area. The seat height is slightly taller in the middle, but lower in front. Yamaha made the new YZ250 a little narrower in front without changing the frame. Somewhere in that process, it lost a little fuel capacity, now measuring at 1.85 gallons. The entire subframe is different, as well as the airbox. Yamaha says that the airflow resistance has decreased by 15%. The air boot between the carb and the airbox has not changed. You can access the airbox by removing one 8mm bolt hidden under the Yamaha logo at the top of the seat now. In the suspension department, Yamaha is saying that most of the fork had been updated to the same pieces as the current YZ250F 4-stroke. The spring rate is slightly heavier compared to the 2021 model. The shock was also updated with new valving and a heavier spring rate. Among the changes that we saw in 2022, the front brake received a new caliper with larger pistons and increased rigidity. It got new pads with 29% more surface area, and even though the rotor is still 270mm in diameter, it is configured with an increase in surface area. In the rear, the caliper is smaller and lighter, and the rotor diameter was reduced from 245mm to 240. The chain and sprockets lost a little weight, and the tires were updated to Dunlop MX33s. Although we haven't seen any notable updates since 2022 on the YZ250, we have to give kudos to Yamaha. They are the last of the Japanese manufacturers to still be offering 250 two-stroke in 2024. We know our two-stroke loyalists appreciate this, and so does Dirtbike magazine. Riding the YZ250 Two Stroke. When you look at the bike, it gives off a more modern vibe, and when you ride it, you can notice a change in the ergos, but only if you have ridden an older YZ back to back. If you're a YZ250 lover, that's nothing but good news. The bike is very distinctive and is an absolute blast to ride in the right conditions. Yes, two strokes are still lighter than four strokes, at least in this case. The YZ250 is 10 pounds lighter than the YZ250F. Beyond the actual number, the two-stroke has a very agile feel. As is often pointed out, two-stroke motors have less rotating mass, which means they have less of a gyroscopic tendency to hold their position in space. Translated, that means you can toss it around more easily. The YZ still isn't the best cornering bike on the track, but that has more to do with power delivery. By modern standards, the YZ has a very hard hit. It takes a skilled approach to roll on the power just the right amount as you initiate your turn. This isn't anything new to two-stroke riders, but if you're transitioning back to a YZ250 after spending time on a four-stroke, you'll have to relearn the magic touch. The YZ250 has a harder hit than even a KTM 250SX, which ramps up earlier, has a wider power band, and revs higher. Whether or not 2024 YZ250 runs any differently because of its new airbox is debatable. The jetting is unchanged and the bike's manners are the same as always. It's super clean down low and has only a hint of detonation under a load. That's the way it's always been. You would think that if airflow were significantly different, the detonation might actually be more pronounced. It's not. Some riders mix in a little race fuel, but it's not necessary unless you install an aftermarket pipe. The real question is unchanged. It isn't about the old YZ250 versus the new one. It's about asking yourself if you're a two-stroke man or not. For racing, there's only a small window of conditions where a YZ250 has an advantage over a four-stroke. If you can custom order a track with loamy dirt, excellent traction, and smooth jump faces, a YZ250 is in its element. There's no bike that's as much fun and effective. Unfortunately, perfect conditions like that don't last long. As soon as the track dries out and the jumps get hooked and rutted, the YZ250 is more demanding. The suspension components might be the same as those of a Yamaha four-stroke, but on a rough track, the four-stroke will work much better. Maybe it's those gyroscopic forces again, but a typical 450 four-stroke will go faster and straighter and get better traction. The debate gets more interesting if you're comparing a YZ250 to a YZ250F. There, the 250 four-stroke will have an advantage in the rough stuff, but the YZ250 will have a horsepower advantage. If you can find the traction, you will eat any 250F alive. None of these facts are new, and none will be the deciding factor in anyone's decision to go buy a two-stroke. In the big picture, nothing has really changed, and the new YZ250 maintains its place in space. It's a fun bike with excellent power and the best suspension in the two-stroke world. Now, it does that with a little more style. We hope you enjoyed our 2024 Yamaha YZ250 two-stroke test. If you'd like to check out the full in-depth review, head over to Dirtbike magazine. And as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest video releases. And if you got a little bit more time on your hands, check these videos out. Don't forget, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you in the next one.